Time to get the winning streak started for the Philadelphia 76ers. Maybe, just maybe, they can win 2 in a row for the first time all season long as they get ready to take on the Charlotte Hornets, who they defeated earlier in the year in overtime. Trying to do so in regulation tonight without LaMelo Ball on the other side. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. It's a little chilly outside, so even if you set the cans outside, it might turn blue. The mountains might turn blue. It's still cold outside. The mountains might turn blue.
I swear, you don't even need the fridge this time of year.
Don't
Just
even
stick
need
it all outside.
Sit it outside, and it's all good. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Givens. JP in with us all week long here tonight for Bree. Bree has the week off, so we get to hang out with JP all week. Front end of a back-to-back for the Sixers in Charlotte tonight. Home to host the Orlando Magic on Wednesday. But first things first, an opportunity to win, Kyle, for the first time this season, their second game in a row again, as they have won a few games already. We know 4, but a real chance, as we always say, a winnable game tonight, and one that you can hopefully build off of from your victory on Saturday and a comfortable win over Detroit tonight. No LaMelo Ball. Brandon Miller has the keys to the Charlotte offense. They are a spunky team, but they are not that much better than the Sixers. They are 6-14, while the 76ers are 4-14. A good chance here tonight with maybe some help also getting back into the lineup.
Yeah, so on both sides of the coin, there are some wrinkles in this game. Number one, and you and I were talking about it briefly before the show, Devon, Mark Williams is back for the Hornets tonight. He's basically their only guy with size on the roster. So I don't know how much he's going to be able to give. Hasn't played all season. I would imagine limited reps, limited minutes. But that's going to push the Sixers inside a little bit, right? So if he's matched up with Yabusele or even Adem Bona, right, who we do expect to play tonight, look for that, and whether he can leverage his size advantages as an offensive rebounder, maybe as a rim runner, things like that. Sixers are getting a couple guys back, we think, tonight, right? Yep. In Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin. And interestingly, Nick Nurse has decided to go with one of the young guys we've been talking about in the starting lineup. KJ Martin is getting the nod alongside Gershon Yabusele, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Tyrese Maxey. So Jared McCain coming off the bench once again. But it's what we saw to open the second half the other night against Detroit. And it does seem like Nick is increasingly leaning into just wanting to get as much size and athleticism as he can on the floor together. I think, frankly, by having KJ in the starting lineup, I would imagine that opens up even more bench opportunities for Ricky, right? Because if they're competing for sort of the same spot, they eat into it a little bit. But with KJ starting, Ricky can now be one of those first guys off the bench and hopefully bring that jolt of energy. So I guess the main question coming out will be, how does the spacing look? Because with Kelly and KJ, they're two guys who are not similar as shooters in the sense that KJ is a reluctant shooter and Oubre has rarely met an open shot that he doesn't like.
Or a contested shot for that matter.
I mean, you're certainly right on that. So how does the inclusion of both those guys in the lineup impact their spacing, impact the offense? Certainly Yabusele as the starting stretch 5 opens things up more than Bona would or Drummond would. But if Kelly starts cold and not like he did against Detroit the other night, they could be in for some trouble potentially.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to point out, you said that they didn't have a lot of size. Diabate destroyed them on the offensive glass in that first matchup. So that is certainly one. And overall, Charlotte is a top 5 offensive rebounding squad. Yeah. So they're going to have to do a much better job on the glass there. I certainly am not against, like we did a show saying, well, get more athletic, get younger, play the young guys. I'm happy to see that there's no Kyle Lowry in the starting lineup because I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit concerned, and you can't go back to that. Well, I will say the inclusion of Kelly over Jared in the starting lineup, I'm still going to be concerned about, because you mentioned that starting lineup and the lack of spacing between Oubre and KJ. And even Yabusele a little bit. He's not, he's a stretch 5, but he's not like an elite stretch 5 to the point where he will overcome 2 virtual non-shooters in that starting lineup. I'm a little concerned there. I am intrigued by the defense and the ability to force turnovers and maybe get out on the break of the Oubre, Paul George, and KJ trio. Yeah. I worry significantly about the lack of shooting. I do hope that, eventually Jared works his way back into the starting lineup. I just think of the options that they have, whether that's shooting off the dribble, shooting off of screens, off the catch, being able to create his own shot. I think he's one of the more dynamic options that they have, and I really do want to see Maxey and McCain and Paul George get ample minutes so you can evaluate them as a trio. I'm not going to completely lose my mind here because I do like the athleticism they have in that lineup, and it's not Kyle Lowry, but I would like to see McCain work his way back.
It's a name that we discussed in KJ Martin, though, getting the start. When we looked ahead after the win on Saturday night, we looked ahead to what could the possible starting lineup look because of the way that KJ Martin and Ricky Council played in that win, how much they really affected and helped pick up that W over the Pistons. That you already knew Andre Drummond was going to be out based on the reporting that the guys had talked about with him being out for up to 3 games with that ankle injury, and knowing that, again, Yabusele was going to get that start. Who was going to be there with him? And the way KJ Martin played, looking ahead to now Mark Williams, you mentioned him being back. Nick Richards comes off the bench as a backup center. Diabate had a really good game against Joel Embiid in that front court where he was rebounding the heck out of the basketball. You needed somebody with some energy and some ability to get off the floor with that second jump also pretty quickly, like KJ Martin can. And then when you do go to Ricky Council as that wing coming off the bench now, we'll get to Caleb Martin and even Kyle Lowry in just a minute. You bring in some young athletes to go against these other young athletes on the other side that the Charlotte Hornets certainly have. And despite their record, these guys play really, really hard. They are athletic, they are fast, and they like to get up and down the floor. And we always talk about the 76ers taking advantage of the defensive rebounds and not allowing these other teams that go after with their effort, their energy. You need to match that. KJ Martin, we saw that in that game against Detroit with what he did, and with not only the scoring, but the rebounding, the running of the floor, defensively blocking shots as well. You need somebody who's going to help Yabusele rebound with Paul George and maybe even Kelly Oubre as well. So a little bit of a surprise, but glad we got ahead of it and talking about it because we had to forecast and look at what Charlotte brings him. Now, I'm with the guys, too, on the Jared McCain side of things of, hey, start the guy, start the kid. I mean,
Here's where we're really going to riot, Devon.
Yeah.
If Kyle Lowry comes into this game before Jared McCain for backup ball handling, I think my brain will leak out of my ears on our couch or one of our chairs out there, and I will be unable to finish writing my story or doing the post-game show.
Yeah, that I'll be flipping stuff over in the studio, in the office. I'll film it. Yeah, me and JP will film it because that's going to be Kyle and Derek flipping the table if that is the case. But yeah, they are. It looks like right now they are available. Both Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry. They both missed last game, and with them being back, though, the positives of it, Derek, looking at getting some more depth. Mm-hmm. Adding to that depth overall. You just don't want it to take away from the young guys like McCain, as Kyle just pointed out, but also Ricky. The way that Ricky played, you still have to find time for Ricky Council to also get on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Caleb coming back is just it's a good thing. And I know a lot of people will look at it, maybe he's been overtaxed in terms of his shot creation. The perimeter shot hasn't gone in like you would hope. He is still a very useful defender, and I'm hopeful that he will get his shot back over the course of the season. So I'm happy to see him back. Reggie and Kyle, to me, are mostly just break in case of emergency point guards. Kyle, if he plays more than 10 minutes per game, I think there's some pretty serious concerns there.
I would say if I get any minutes in this game, there are some serious concerns.
Not you. I agree. I do not. Despite the fact that you passed the Kyle Neubeck height test, I do not actually want to see you on a basketball floor. But Lowry, if he gets more than 10 minutes, I would be pretty concerned. And Reggie is, to me, a break case in case of emergency. Point guard, if either of them are eating into the minutes of someone like McCain, then we will have a lot to talk about here on the post-game show. So it's great to get them back because I think you need some depth. It's great to get Kyle Lowry back just because I think he is so smart that he can impart some of that. It is, as much as people want to make the joke about him being an assistant coach, it is a little bit different when you have a message coming from a peer, even if that peer has an NBA career who is older than you are. It's still something that I think is worthwhile to have on the bench and occasionally on the court to steady the lineup. It just has to be 10 minutes selectively, not 25 to 30 minutes like it was earlier on in the season. So I'm happy to have him back for sure. But, like I said, it's just the minutes have to be correct.
Yeah. And look, do I want to see much of Lowry at all? No. But what were we talking about yesterday about, getting Jared off the ball a little bit and getting Jared some off-ball reps, some catch-and-shoot reps where he doesn't have to be that true backup point guard. Well, one of the only ways you're going to do that is if you have another ball handler in the game. I would prefer that ball handler to be Tyrese Maxey and to foster that development moving forward. But if Jared is going to play mostly, or not mostly, but in a lot of the non-Maxey minutes, then the only way you're going to do that is by playing another guard. Frankly, at this point, I'd probably rather that be Reggie than Lowry based on their recent form. I think the important thing is that you can't play one of those guys and also Eric Gordon, right? You have to make a firm choice. You cannot be playing these insane, small 3-guard lineups. I think that's been a clear lesson. And circling back on the Hornets real quickly, Devon, as you were talking about them and the offensive rebounding and things like that, they played the Knicks on Friday, right? Black Friday was an afternoon game, and they were super banged up. I think it was basically Brandon Miller and a lot of their bench depth guys. And they pushed New York for that whole game, right? And so they're a relatively well-coached team. They play hard. They have a bunch of athletes on the team. They have a pretty firm identity and understanding of who they are. So while I do think the Sixers should be clear favorites in this game, they have the talent advantage. They certainly have the experience advantage in a lot of areas. We're going to be saying this all year, right? Based on where the Sixers are at in the standings. They cannot walk in and take this game for granted. They have to show up. They're not good enough. They have to show up with you have to more than just clear the standard bar of professionalism. You have to be going out there, playing hard, making sure you're doing the little things, right? Boxing guys out, chipping somebody who's on his way to the rim for a hard crash, making sure you're getting back in transition, because that's what young athletic teams want to do, right? They want to punish the Paul Georges of the world for being a little slow getting back in transition. So all the things that have been issues for them all season so far might also be issues in this game. They got to really lock in on those very basic principles, but important principles against these guys.
They definitely cannot walk into any gym, any arena right now and expect to win, because they are a 4-win team through 18 games. So I would be very disappointed if they did something like that. But there is a real chance tonight against this Hornet team, even though, as Kyle pointed out, they will battle you. They did so, again, in that game when Joel Embiid played against the Hornets at home, and they had to go to overtime to win it. So this team will get after it. They will not have LaMelo Ball, who is out with a calf strain. He's going to be out for a little bit. Grant Williams is out with an ACL tear, so he's done for the season. And they do get, though, Mark Williams back, as Kyle pointed out, in the lineup. They will battle you. They're well coached by Charles Lee, first year head coach, and doing a pretty darn good job, despite the fact that they are sitting at 6 wins. Kyle just pointed out they compete. They get after it. They listen to his message, and they get out there and get it. 6 wins for
that roster.
Yeah.
And the injuries
100%.
and whatnot, I think that's fairly reasonable.
And look, who are we to look down? There's 50% more wins than the team we cover. So
not at all. But it's a real chance. This is a winnable game once again for this basketball team, and they're starting to get these people back. Where you have Jackson, Martin, and Lowry back in the lineup, they are fully equipped without Embiid to at least get out there and try to look like a real professional basketball team, and not where we were discussing them as a JV team, a G League team, whatever jokes we may have had about them. They need to go out there and handle their business the same way that they did and build off the win on Saturday. That's just the bottom line of what they had. It was a feel-good win. The others, they struggled to get to all 3 of them, including the Brooklyn game for that matter. But a feel-good win where they were in control for a good portion of the game. And once they kept their foot on the gas, they saw what the results are. The question is, can they do that again against the Charlotte team? And building off of that, even when just getting back to the young guys and the athleticism and so on, the Ricky Council piece, where you're going to have to find minutes for Caleb Martin coming off the bench, but also Ricky Council. Martin will probably get the nod first, as he should, but you still do, if you're Nick Nurse, reward the guys for playing well and again against a team like this.
So a couple of things. One Charlotte thing. Last 3 games, 4-point loss to Miami, 1-point loss to the Knicks, 3-point loss to the Hawks. This is not a team that LaMelo Ball went down and they're just non-competitive.
Yeah,
right?
They've lost 6 out of 7, but they've been almost all close.
They are in games. Yep. They will hang around. They will give themselves chances. But on the Sixers side of things, someone we haven't really gotten to yet, and I don't expect to play a huge role, but at least like a pretty sizable role. Adem Bona, right? And so I think the other night when you're playing against a Detroit team that is on the second half of a back-to-back, you could tell that they were weary in the legs, and his type of energy and athleticism around the basket is tough to play against when you're tired, right? That's just, it's, if you walked into a pickup gym and it's the end of a long day, you're not really feeling it, and some 6'10" dude who can jump all over the place is in your face, it's like, I'm going home, man. Get me out of this gym. And so he looked great in that setting where he took advantage of their tired legs. Well, Charlotte's been off since Saturday, so they've had a couple of days between now and their last game. They're going to come in hungry. They've lost 5 in a row, but a bunch of those very close games that they've been in. So Adem is going to have to walk the line probably a little tighter than he did the other night. Now, I was encouraged by the fact that he did not commit tons of defensive fouls, right? We pointed out 2 of his fouls. One was a moving screen. The other one was clearing out Tim Hardaway Jr. for a potential post seal on the offensive end. So 2 offensive fouls. You're probably not expecting a ton of those. The defensive discipline needs to continue to be there. They're going to try to attack a young guy and the vulnerabilities young bigs have as rim protectors. So let's see. Opportunity number 2 for Adem to play real minutes, and if he can string a few games together here, we'll see if Joel Embiid ever plays again at this rate. And Drummond is out at least until the weekend. But this is a great opportunity for him to start, putting stuff on tape, to go to Nick Nurse and say, hey, look, Andre Drummond might be making more money. Andre Drummond might have been the guy that was brought in to be kind of that reserve big, but I'm here and, I'm making my case to play.
Yeah, I would love to see almost nothing more would I love to see for the rest of the season than Bona to take this opportunity and really win that backup job. Because Andre Drummond just wasn't it. And I almost feel bad because it felt like the last game and a half or so that he played before getting injured was some of the best basketball he's played this season. But that being said, we have a pretty good sample of work here where they just need more. They need more energy. They need more hustle. They need more activity on defense. They need more mobility. They need fewer dribble handoffs. So maybe it's not all more, but they need they need their big man to be near the rim offensively and not necessarily wasting possessions out on the perimeter. They need fewer. Again, I'm going back to the fewer let Drummond cook moments. And Bona is just he plays a little bit more within his lane. He is certainly more active and more impactful defensively at this stage. It's just, can you rein that in and make the decision-making match some of the athleticism and mobility that he has? Because I'm just sick of watching big men who can't move. Like, it just puts your defense at such a bind when that big man is just sitting there patrolling like a 5 foot by 5 foot section of the paint. Bona changes stuff on the court. He impacts shots on the floor in a way that Drummond doesn't. He pursues, frankly, offensive rebounds in a way that Drummond hasn't been for most of the year. That's the one area where I've really been disappointed with Drummond. I would love to see him just take this opportunity and run with it. Do I think he will? I think he would have to be exceptional for Nick Nurse to get over his fear of playing young players in a way that Jared McCain was. Although Jared McCain is coming off the bench, we'll see what his minutes look like here as most of the regulars return. But I'd love to see it.
And here's the other thing I would note on the offensive end. Nick Nurse has said once or twice in post-game pressers that some of their issues at the center position have been they're not getting into space enough, or when they're screening, they're not getting downhill quick enough. And that's directly a Drummond problem, right? Because Yabu has mostly been a pick-and-pop guy or a guy who moves the ball very quickly. Well, one thing Adem is going to do is get downhill. He's going to set a screen hard and run to the rim. Sometimes it's going to be a little disorganized, and maybe he needs to figure out.
He might not catch all those dump off passes.
Exactly. But if you're putting him in a lineup where we're expecting someone like Jared McCain to be the lead point guard, and our lob king of PHLY, Devon Givens, is ready for some alley-oops, well, Adem Bona certainly can go up there and throw down the ball if the pass is there. And so even though he's not going to help with spacing and, Drummond playing with guys like Oubre and KJ and some of these, and Caleb and some of these other non-spacing wings, that has had a bad effect on him. You can find spacing and you can create space for players in ways that are not just these guys stand around the perimeter and make threes. And I think Adem, despite the fact that he's still a pretty limited offensive player, I think just with the downhill speed and that vertical threat as a dunker, that can help them out if he can stay on the floor.
Let's get to and move on to the fellow rookie from Adem Bona's class. That would be number 16 overall pick, Jared McCain, who was today announced as the Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month for the months of October and November. The least surprising thing of all in the season where they've had a ton of surprises. This was the least surprising thing, Derek. We've been talking about this for a while now, especially with him getting going with the 10 games in a row of double-digit scoring, the 7 20-plus point games, which ranks first among the rookie class. He is the 7th 76er to earn Rookie of the Month honors, and he has had a fantastic start to his career, and where we did not expect this soon from the rookie, where we're at game number 19, and you guys are like, why is he not starting again? And that's because he's been that good, but well-deserved, something we did expect after a while. He cleared the field to start things off for this award.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, it was a foregone conclusion in the East. There was obviously a little bit of intrigue there in the West between Wells and Connect. Yep. But in the East, it was pretty clearly going to be Jared's award for the month, or the month asterisk, because they include October in with November. But even with
4 games.
Yeah, even with the struggles here over the last couple of days, he's still averaging 16 points on like 45, 37, 90% splits. Yep. So he's been a real efficient with, young guards coming into the league in their first taste of action. usually aren't efficient like that. You expect him to get better and better, especially with that shot. It was, like I said, foregone conclusion, but a well-earned one. And for him to have stepped in there, gave them a shot in the arm when so many of their stars were out of lineup, and just given fans something to be excited about at a time when this could have gotten really, and still could get really, really dark. He has been a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, and look, I think we all are in agreement on we'd prefer him to be with the starters and think that he should be there over Oubre. I do think, though, if you're trying to take a silver lining from the recent move to the bench and having him run more point guard, is just like you're going to develop some different skills for him, right? You're going to ask him to do a lot more of the game management, the leading with his passing and, getting to spots, reading the floor and making the correct read, right? Whether that's the skip to the corner, the drop off to the big, the lob that Devon loves, whatever it is, him getting to kind of do that on his own, hopefully anyway, without someone like a Lowry maybe carrying him along in that way. I think that ultimately helps accelerate his development, and it gives you a better idea of, what can this kid be and how do we need to build out around him, Maxey, and the rest of this group? Because one thing that became clear in the first month and a half of the season is that this kid's going to have a pretty big say in, how the team unfolds moving forward and what sort of pieces they need around him. He's in the middle of a cold stretch right now, but I think all of us are expecting him to eventually make threes again, to eventually take some threes. He was down in volume the other night, but I think this is a good opportunity for him to flex his the basketball IQ we talk about, but use that as a passer rather than as a relocation shooter and the things we were seeing him do early on.
Yep. Again, fantastic start for the kid. Even though he has made so many 30-plus threes in his first few games here of his career, 2 of 21 over his last 3, which we discussed during our watch along. We discussed it post game, and we discussed it on Monday for the start of our shows this week. But an opportunity tonight where he's going to get some looks once again, and having someone like Lowry on the floor with him to maybe set him up, get him some more good looks like he has had. He just has to knock those down. The Sixers on their Twitter account were showing him work out at pregame and getting some of that pregame work in. He was knocking those shots down. Of course, that's against the player development guys and the assistant coaches. That said, we pretty much count on him to start to pick that back up and start knocking those shots down from the perimeter once again for the 76ers. Quickly, also, the Sixers, Kyle, announced the signing of a 2-way contract for Pete Nance, the younger brother of Larry Nance.
Otherwise known as Pete Nate in some corners of the internet.
Right. So Larry Nance Jr. and, of course, the son of Larry, who spent a ton of time in the NBA back in the day for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they get rid of, and we were kind of talking about it even when he got into the game against the Pistons, Lester. We hardly knew you,
I
Lester.
will refrain from making the gambling related jokes that Derek and I were at amongst ourselves.
Lester Quinones out and Pete Nance in, just to add some more front court body to the front court, and a young player. And we'll see. They're giving him a shot as a two-way here, and see what he has.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you that I've watched any Cleveland Charge games this year, so I would be lying.
Or even Northwestern from a couple years ago.
I would be lying if I mean, I saw a little bit of him in North Carolina
for that one season.
Yeah, he was. I was not especially encouraged by what I saw from him in that limited run there, but he is a power forward.
Yes, he is.
He has power forward size, and it's just somebody different at one of those spots. I think, frankly, given that Jared broke out, there was really no reason to carry a non-wing shooter as one of your two-way guys. So if nothing else, it's just like bring somebody else different in.
Take a flyer.
And bring them into the program, see what they do in a practice setting on the road, whatever it might be, and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, do I have any expectations? No. He's a big body that, if something happens and you need a couple fouls or you need a couple minutes, you can try out. Long term, no. I mean, he's an undrafted player who's been bouncing around the G League. If they work out, great, but you don't really expect them to work out coming in.
That'll do it. I've got nothing. We'll see. We'll see about. I know just about as much as everybody else on this one.
What I would say about him is he's not, sort of like his brother. He's big, but he's not really a shot blocker. Like he's 6'10" with a 7-foot wingspan, so he's barely in the plus in that regard, and he doesn't really, have much in terms of rim protection ability. And he's a sort of mediocre-ish shooter from the perimeter. So if you can't space the floor and you can't protect the rim, it's probably why you're 6'10", 6'11", and bouncing around the league. He doesn't necessarily have that signature skill, but he'll play hard.
Those athletic genes in the Nance family are significant. So
grab some of those rebounds, block a shot or two, and everybody will be just fine.
Play hard, buddy.
That's it. Yep. That's all to it. All right, let's get to the final one of the night.
Gambling Givens.
The Bet365 best bets of the night. Brought to you by the pick segment, brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Let's get to it, JP. Let's see what we have here tonight. Paul George.
Ooh, 2 bets.
Hey.
Timmy 2 bets over here.
I'm telling you.
These parlays are getting less and less. So pretty soon he's going to have a 1-game parlay. And it's like, that doesn't count, buddy.
We're all good. Paul George over 16.5 points tonight. He finished with 11. He struggled from the floor. But getting out there, getting his legs underneath him with that brace, getting used to it playing with that brace, and playing against a team like Charlotte, while they do have some young wings, there are also some that are still a little young, where he can pick on them a bit with certain things, get him in foul trouble, get him to bite on a few things from time to time as well. And with that, 16.5 over for me for Paul George tonight to go along with the rookie of the month.
Bounce back games for both of them.
To find his shooting chops again tonight. Jared McCain with 2+ threes tonight. I'm counting on you again, Jared. That's how much faith I have in you. And on the single bet.
I hope you are right on both of them, because after Jared went 6 for 11 from 3-point range against the Nets, he has gone 2 for 21 since. So I hope he gets back on track.
That's why I said just 2 tonight. 2 tonight. We'll build off of that maybe tomorrow against Orlando. The single bet with no LaMelo Ball. You know where the shots are coming from the Charlotte Hornets. That is Brandon Miller. He finished with 30+ in the last game, 26.5, the over-under. I went under, right under, because, again, he's very good. There's nothing wrong with 25 or 26 for him, but I think the under, I don't think he goes off for 30+ tonight, especially getting some help back with the guys like Caleb Martin.
He is averaging 27 per game over his last 7, so he's right there. It's
right
like an almost perfect over-under.
Exactly, and that's why you come to us. Well, me. Forget this guy. Forget these guys. They don't have faith. Well, Kyle's had
forget
faith.
me when you lose, but remember me when you win. How about
Kyle
that?
has faith. The pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21+ and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know does have a gambling problem and is looking for help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, for us, that'll do it. We'll come back post-game and get the post-game show underway, presented by Bet365. But as we say goodbye, we want to thank our sponsor, our pregame sponsor, and that is Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. For Derek, Kyle, JP, I'm Devon. We'll see you after the game right here. Are we talking about a real winning streak?
Talking about a winning streak?
No. 2 is 2 in a row, but 3 is a winning streak.
Are we talking about 2 in a
before.
row? We'll see if it happens, and we'll discuss it with you post-game right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. See you then.
We all sitting like the mayor.